That's my speed.
That's like Afrocentric oil.
Yeah. Sorry. How you doing, bro? Hey. Yeah, I can't complain.
Oh man, the boy's back.
If I could, why would I got Ali Davis. Get yourself in trouble, man. Get yourself in trouble. Get me in trouble tonight. Get in trouble messing with me. I don't know. That was on site. Yeah, I was asking. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم الحكيم اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين أما بعد. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to pick up from the chapter Ishrat al-Nisa. The last week I was sajid taught the class Bab al-Walima till Urs. Before we start this class, Bab al-Ishrat al-Nisa, it's important to, we're going to speak about something briefly, and that is, the whole process of marriage thus far is a build-up to some of the things we're going to talk about now. It's important when a sister gets married that she has a wali. The purpose of a wali is what? What's the purpose of a wali? Huh?
To represent her, protect her.
To represent her, protect her. Like, protect her from what?
Marrying the wrong person.
Marrying the wrong person. So what could marrying the wrong person do for a sister?
What could it do for her?
Yeah, what are some of the negative consequences of marrying the wrong person? Huh? It can make her want to leave Islam. What else? What are some of the negative consequences? I mean, it's nothing worse than that, leaving Islam.
Right.
Right?
That's like the top.
La dhanba ba'da kufr, huh? Adultery.
I mean, it was like a,
Not listening to her husband. Earning the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc. Right? So, this chapter here is important that some of the things we hear and we learn tonight are going to be important because this all goes back to a sister being married. She has a proper wali. Everything's done the way it should be done. So when you get to this point, is ease, right? But some people, when they get to this point, there's problems, a lot of problems, fighting, disrespect to one another, to the point, even some cases where some people even leave Islam. That's all. As-salamu afiyah. So inshallah, that's just a quick introduction to that small part, if you will. So we start Bab Ishrat al-Nisa. What does that mean? What does that chapter mean? Does anyone know? Ishrat al-Nisa.
Is it Shin Ra Ta?
La Ain Ishra.
Ishra.
Ain Shin Ra Ta. Ta marbut. Ishrat al-Nisa. Something about the women. That's all you know. Something about the women, right?
To live with them.
Ashurahunna. Good. So what does that mean? To live with them.
To live with them.
Ahsant. So the word here is living with your spouse. Islam has rules as it relates to living with a spouse. Islam has rules. And so inshallah we're going to discuss some of them. قال المصنف Abu Najah Imam al-Hajjawi rahimahullah ta'ala in his book Zaad Al-Mustaqni. Some of the things that we cover, or some of the topics here we won't necessarily discuss, however some of them we will. So if there's anyone following along reading in Zaad as we go through this, you must say, hey, the brother skipped this part or skipped that part. It's intentional. It's intentional omission. Some things are not young buggy, or some things may not be appropriate for our society or what have you.
This volume hasn't been translated.
I don't know. You asking me or telling me?
Yes, I'm asking.
Actually, I don't know what's been translated, unfortunately. I couldn't tell you. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى. He starts off by saying يلزم زوجين العشرة بالمعروف. He says يلزم زوجين العشرة بالمعروف, that it is incumbent for the man, the spouses to live with one another in goodness. Bil ma'ruf. What's goodness? What does that look like? Is there a general goodness that everyone knows? Or is this something that is specific to a particular culture? How do we qualify goodness? What are the rules to understand what goodness
I
means?
think you have a general goodness, which is general around the world. Then you have those things that are specific.
So there's a general goodness, and then there's something that is specific. And this specific type of goodness here, it will be referred back to a principle, one of the legal maxims in Islam, which is a qaida. Al-qaida taqul al-aada muhakkama, that the customary practice of a people takes precedence. So in this case, the customary practice of the people in said society, it takes precedence on how a husband and a wife deal with one another. This is important because looking at that, it gives a person a clear understanding of how a husband is supposed to deal with his spouse and vice versa. So we're going to go to one of the books of tafsir. Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a book called Jamul Ahkam al-Quran. This is one of the books that we studied in the university in the topic Ahkam al-Quran, Ayat al-Ahkam, meaning there are a certain amount of verses in the Quran that Islam takes rulings from. This book, Jamul Ahkam al-Quran al-Qurtubi, this is one of the books that is used to extract rulings from the Quran. They have different types of tafsir. This book of tafsir is used to extract rulings from the Quran. It's a book that is used for ayat al-ahkam. There are a number of them. From them, we have Ahkam al-Quran lil-Jassas, and we have Ahkam al-Quran li Ibn Arabi, and we have Ahkam al-Quran from Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah. At any event, so when the author says that it is necessary that the two spouses live with one another in goodness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَعَاشِرَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. We're going to read some of the tafsir of these verses in the Quran because I feel that it's very important to put some context to how these verses are understood by some of the scholars of the past. So Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, فِيهِ ثَلَاثُ مَسَائِلٍ. In the verse where Allah says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. This means the women, they have rights similar to the rights that the men have over their spouses. The women, they have rights similar to the rights that the husband has over them in terms of goodness. And so the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says that this can be broken down to three issues or three categories or three parts. And so he says, Al-Ula. We're not going to go through all of them. We're going to pick out pieces of it. He says, Al-Ula wa qawluhu ta'ala wa lahunna. أي لهن من حقوق الزوجية على الرجال مثل ما للرجال عليهن. That he said that the rights for the women are similar to the rights that the men have over their spouses. And he says, he mentions, well, he had to call Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was from the companions who understood the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him knowledge of the Quran. And so Ibn Abbas, he said, as it relates to this verse, he says, إِنِّي لَأَتَزَيَّنُ لِإِمْرَأَتِي كَمَا تَتَزَيَّنَ لِي مَا أُحِبُّ أَنْ أَسْتَنْطِفَ كُلُّ حَقٍّ الَّذِي لِي عَلَيْهَا فَتَسْتَوْجِبْ حَقَّهَا الَّذِي لَهَا عَلَيَّ. He says, وَلِأَنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى قَالَ وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Ibn Abbas, rahimahullah ta'ala, this is very important because he understood the meanings of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran. And he said about this verse, he said, Inni la'atazayyinu. He says, for indeed I beautify myself for my spouse, the same way I would like her to beautify herself to me. I would not love to follow her for all of my rights because I'm afraid that she will come and seek all of her rights from me. It is a statement of Ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And then he mentioned the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where Allah says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That women, they have rights over us similar to the rights we have over them in goodness, بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. وَعَنْهُ أَيْضًا, and he also mentions, أي لهن من حسن الصحبة. So now they're going to explain, what else does this verse mean? And he says, لهن من حسن الصحبة. That your spouses should be your companions, your friends. وَالْعِشْرَةُ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِنَّ مِثْلَ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ. And they should live with them in goodness the same way that they would expect for them to live with them. And that the wife should listen to her husband مِنْ طَاعَةً فِي مَا أَوْجَبَهُ عَلَيْهِنَّ لِأَزْوَاجِهِنَّ. That she should listen to her husband and listen to him in things that she has been commanded to listen to him in. وَتَرْكُ مَضَرَّتَهُنَّ كَمَا كَانَ ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِنَّ لِأَزْوَاجِهِنَّ. And that the husband or the spouse should not harm his spouse, should not cause harm or should not bring harm to her. This is the first thing that he mentioned. Now mind you, some people may look at this and say, well, I can't listen to my husband doesn't do this, my husband doesn't do that, etc. This may be an issue that goes back to the origin of the marriage. There are sisters that get married to brothers, and the wali for the sisters, the brother's friend. The brother's friend was looking out for the well-being of the brother, but no one looked out for the well-being of the sister. And what that did was it put her at a disadvantage in listening to her husband or fulfilling the rights of her husband because she wasn't able to because she didn't marry the right person. Well, طيب. The next part, قول الثانية مسألة الثانية. Ibn Abbas, he says, قول Ibn Abbas إني لا تزين لامرأتي. He says, for indeed I beautify myself for my spouse. He says, قال العلماء أما زينة الرجال فعلى تفاوت أحوالهم. So the scholars of Islam, they say a man, in order for a man to groom himself, it varies from person to person, the level of grooming. In fact, Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah gets really detailed. And so he says, فَإِنَّهُمْ يَعْمَلُونَ ذَلِكَ. He says, وَزِينَةَ تَعْلِيقَ بِالشَّبَابِ وَزِينَةَ تَعْلِيقَ بِالشُّيُوخِ لَا تَعْلِيقُ بِالشَّبَابِ. He says, the type of grooming that a young man would do will be different than the type of grooming that an older man would do. So what works in terms of zina, in terms of beautification, grooming oneself that an older man would do is going to be distinctly different from a younger man. And then he mentions in his tafsir something that they all share in. So he says, فَأَمَّا الطَّيِّبْ والسواك والخلال. الطيب is that a person should smell good, meaning you're talking about the spouse. The male should smell good. والسواك, he should use the miswak. And what's understood here is cleaning his teeth. والخلال, khilal here, as some of the scholars mentioned, this is referred to as flossing, making sure that the husband flosses his teeth. وقلم الأظفار, and cutting the nails. فهو بين موافق للجميع, and these are things that all men can do. As it relates to the elderly or the older men, it says وخطاب للشيوخ. As for the older men, then they can dye their hair, put henna or something in their hair. وَالْخَاتِمْ لِلْجَمِيعِ مِنَ الشَّبَابِ وَالشَّيُوخِ زِينَةً. And he says, as it relates to wearing rings, this type of ring in Islam, he said this is zina. This is something that is nice for the young and the old. وَهُوَ حَلِيلَ الرِّجَاءِ عَلَى مَا يَأْتِي بَيَانَهُ فِي سُورَةِ النَّحْلِ. Wearing a ring is beautification for a man, or could be seen as jewelry for a man that he can wear. And he said this was further clarified in Surah An-Nahl. If anyone wanted to go back and read that, Surah An-Nahl, it discusses that. ثُمَّ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَتَرَخَّى أَوْقَاتْ حَاجَتِهَا إِلَى الرَّجُلِ فَيُعِفُّهَا وَيُبْنِيهَا عَنْ أَنْ تَطَلَّعْ إِلَى غَيْرِهِ. And he said that it is important that a man takes precaution and do the things necessary to keep his spouse from looking at other men. And then he's more specific. He says, وَإِنْ رَأَى الرَّجُلُ مِنْ نَفْسِهِ عَاجِزًا عَنْ إِقَامَةِ حَقِّهَا فِي الْمُدَّجِهَا. He said that if a man finds that it is difficult for him to perform in the bedroom, and this is, understand something, this is something that was mentioned hundreds of years ago. And so Imam Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he mentions here, he says, if a man finds difficulty in satisfying his spouse intimately, he says, then this man أخذ من أدوية التي تزيد في باهه وتقوي شهوته حتى يعفها ويعفها حتى يعفها. He said that this person, if he has difficulty satisfying his spouse, then he should seek or take some type of medication that will aid him and assist him in fulfilling her desires as well as his own. All of this goes back to what? وَعَاشِرَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and live with them in goodness. That's the second part. The third part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَلِلْرِجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةً. At the end of that verse, Allah says that as it relates to the men, then Allah has given the men a small daraja, a level above the women. So we're going to mention some of the statements of some of the scholars of the past as it relates to a daraja, what they understood by daraja or level. فَزِيَادَةُ الدَّرَجَ الرَّجُلِ بِعَقْلِهِ. So some of them said this increase in a level could be due to his intellect, وَقُوَّتِهِ, or his strength, or بِالْإِنْفَاقِ, or his وَبِالْإِنْفَاقِ وَبِالدِّيَّةِ, his expenditures, or the fact that he can pay the blood money. Blood money is if a person is murdered in Islam, then the men are the ones that will come and pay the blood money on behalf of the family, if the people accepted it. And this, you can find this in the chapter of crimes and punishments in Islam. Likewise, a mirath, an Islamic inheritance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the men, وَلِلذَّكَرْ مِثْلَ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ, that the man, he will get the double, the amount for inheritance over the girl, meaning the son will get double over the daughter. Obviously, there are things from wisdom that necessitates that, but in general, this was what was mentioned. وَقَالَ حَمِيدَ الدَّرَجَ اللِّحْيَةِ. Some of the Salaf, they say the daraja here is the lihya, the fact that a man can grow a lihya. And he says, وَهَذَا إِنْ صَحَّ. Now, the reason why I'm going to mention this part is because Imam Al-Qurtubi, he mentions this, and then he's going to mention some statements of some of the other ulama who refuted this statement and what they said about it. طيب, so he says, قال حميد الدرجة اللحية. He said the daraja here is talking about the lihya or the beard. He says, وهذا إن صح عنه فهو ضعيف لا يقتضي لفظ الآية ولا معناها. He said, whoever says that the level here is talking about the beard, he said this is a weak position. Rather, the verse in the Quran doesn't even contain that meaning in it. قال ابن عربي. Ibn Arabi al-Maliki is from the ulama of Imam al-Malik who studied that school. He said, فَتُوبَ لِعَبْدٍ أَمْسَكَ عَمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُ وَخَصُوصًا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. He said, may Allah reward the one who knows how to refrain himself about speaking about Allah's religion without knowledge, especially as it relates to the Quran. Ibn Arabi rahimahullah, he died, I think 700 years ago. And he said that a person, meaning that this statement here is a statement of no knowledge. وَلَا يَخْفَى عَلَى الَّبِيبِ فَضْلُ الرِّجَالِ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. And then he says, it's not hard for the person of intellect to understand that the man has been favored over the woman. وَلَوْ لَمْ يَكُنْ إِلَّا إِنَّ الْمَرْأَ خُلِقَتْ مِنْ رَجُلٍ فَهُوَ أَصْلِهَا. He said, even if they were to understand that a woman was created from a man. A woman was created from the rib of a man, and the man is the origin. وَلَهُ أَنْ يَمْنَعَهَا مِنَ التَّصَرُّفِ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. And now it starts to speak about some of the rights that men have over the women, in that لَهُ أَنْ يَمْنَعَهَا, that is for a husband can prevent his wife from leaving إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ, except with his permission. وَفَلَا تَصُومْ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ, and that she should not fast unless it is done with his permission. We're talking about a sunnah fast here, not a wajib fast. وَلَا تَحُجْ إِلَّا مَعْهُ, that she should not make hajj unless it's with him. And some say وَقِيلَ الدَّرَجَ الصَّدَّاقِ. Some say the daraja here is charity, meaning the saddaq, meaning the mahar, that the man has to pay mahar. At any event, the scholars of Islam, there's a long, extensive discussion on the different, what does Allah mean here when he says that the men are over the women with a level? They're a level above the women in some way. What does this mean? At any event, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, وَلَوْ أَمَرْتُ أَحَدًا بِالسُّجُودِ أَحَدًا أو لغير الله لأمرت المرأة أن تسجد لزوجها. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, if I was going to command anyone to make a prostration to other than Allah, I would have commanded the woman to make prostration to her husband due to his status. وقال ابن عباس, Ibn Abbas, rahimahullah, radiyallahu ta'ala, he said, الدرجة إشارة إلى حظ الرجال على حسن العشرة والتوسع للنساء في المال والخلق. Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala, he said here, the level here is referring to a man being good to his wife, وَالتَّوَسُّعْ لِلنِّسَاءِ, to not be stingy towards his wife, فِي الْمَالِ وَالْخُلُقِ, that he should help his wife and spend on her from his wealth and have good character with her. أي أن الأفضل ينبغي أن يتحامل على نفسه, and that he should control himself with regards to that. طيب. And then he mentioned another statement here about the women, where he says, أيما امرأة دعاها زوجها إلى فراشه فأبت عليه لعنته أو لعنتها الملائكة حتى تصبح. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, any woman whose husband calls her to bed and she refuses, she will be cursed by the angels until the morning. She will be cursed by the angels until the morning. Now imagine if a woman was compatible with her spouse, this would never be an issue. But what about when you have a case where a sister does not like her husband or is not getting along with her husband or etc., then it's easy to fall into some of these things that I mentioned here. Allah Ta'ala A'lam. In addition to that, In the book Shar al-Kabir, it also mentions وَيَلْزَمُ كُلُّ وَاحِدٍ مِنَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ مَعَاشَرَةُ الْآخَرِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That is it important for each husband and spouse to live with their spouses in goodness. As the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he mentions وَيَحْرُمُ مَطْلُ كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ بِمَا يَلْزَمَهُ لِلْآخَرِ وَالتَّكَرُّهِ لِبَذْلِهِ. So here the next part is, the Shaykh Rahimahullah is going to mention two things that are haram. Two things that are haram. Before we continue, what does haram mean? Huh?
It means if you do
What does that mean?
It means if you do it, it's a sin.
If you do it, it's a sin.
Punishable.
If you do it, it's punishable.
Yeah.
Ahsant. And then the ulama, they say that something that is haram, this means you are deserving of Allah's punishment, but it is not necessary that Allah will punish you. But you have made it halal for yourself to receive the punishment of Allah Jalla wa Ala. So anytime we use the terms haram, it's important that we understand its context and what it means. So the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, وَيَحْرَمُ مَطْلُ كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ بِمَا يَلْزَمَهُ لِلْآخَرِ. So the first thing he says is that it is haram for a husband or a wife, مَطْلُ كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ بِمَا يَلْزَمَهُ. Meaning, if a husband has rights, or let's start with the spouse. The husband is supposed to do certain things for his spouse that is obligatory, for example, and he doesn't do them or he delays in doing them. This is impermissible. Likewise, for a husband, a spouse supposed to do something for her husband and she doesn't do it or she delays in doing it, this is also sinful. And he said it's also haram, but takarruh li budlihi. Let's say, for example, a woman, her husband is supposed to do something for his spouse that is her rights. But yet, when it's time for him to do it, he hates to do it. He doesn't love to do this thing for his spouse that is obligatory for him to do. He hates it. This is haram for him to be that way. Likewise, for a woman. If a husband asks his wife to do something that is within the rights to ask, and she hates to do it for him. She hates to do this. And it shows on her face and it shows on his face. The hatred to do that thing for their spouse. This is also impermissible. This is also impermissible. طيب. So here in Shar al-Kabir it mentions فَعَلَيْهِ أَن يُحْسَنُ صُحْبَتَهَا وَيَكُفَّ عَنْهَا أَذَاهُ وَيُنْفِقَ عَلَيْهَا مِنْ سَعَتِهِ. As it says for the man, it is important for the man to be a good companion of his spouse, وَيَكُفَّ عَنْهَا أَذَاهُ, and that protect her from his harm, and that he should spend on her from his sustenance. Some of the ulama, they also mention وَلَا يَمْطُلُهُ بِهِ وَلَا يُظْهِرُ كَرَاحَةَ بَلْ بِبِشْرٍ وَالطَّلَاقَ, that a spouse should not show outwardly their dislike to serve their spouse, one or the other. They should not outwardly show disgust or dislike to do something for their spouse. ولا يتبعه أذى ولا منا لأن هذا من المعروف الذي أمر الله تعالى به. And it is important that they do not follow that up with harming their spouse, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us with goodness. وَيُسْتَحَبُّ لِكُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا تَحْسِينُ الْخُلُقِ لِصَاحِبِهِ وَرِفْقٍ. And it is highly recommended for each one, the husband and the wife, to have husnul khuluq, to be good, to show good character and be gentle with each other. وَاحْتِمَالُ أَذَى لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. As Allah Jalla wa Ala mentions in the Quran, Allah Jalla wa Ala mentions in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 36. Allah starts off by saying, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. That Allah mentions the people you're supposed to be good to. Allah starts off with al-walidaini ihsana, with the parents, be good to them. Then Allah says, وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى, and with the people that are close to you. And then Allah says, وَصَاحِبَ الْجَنْبِ وَصَاحِبَ الْجَنْبِ, the companion on the side. Qila, some of the ulama, they say, who are these companions on the side? Who are kullu wahid min az-zawjayn. The companion on the side is every one of the spouse, meaning the husband and the wife. The husband and the wife. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he says, استوصوا بالنساء خيرا فإنهن أوان عندكم أخذتموهن بأمانة الله واستحللتم فروجهن بكلمات الله. رواه Muslim. And this hadith that was reported by Sahih Muslim, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, استوصوا بالنساء خيرا, meaning be good to the women. For indeed, in An-Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he used this word awan. The word awan here, it means captives. They say it's almost like when you get married, the women are like captives to you. And this is a reminder for the awliya, for the brothers that have daughters, you have sisters, you have mothers, etc. When you give your women away to be married, this is what you're doing. You're putting them in position to be like captives, kama qala Nabiyyu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he says, these women are awanun indakum. And then he said, أَخَذْتُمُوهُنَّ بِأَمَانَةِ اللَّهِ, that you have these women and they are given to you as a trust from Allah. وَاسْتَحْلَلْتُمْ فُرُوجَهُنَّ بِكَلِمَةِ اللَّهِ, and that their private parts have become halal to you with the statement of Allah. This is the statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن المرأة خلقت من ضلع أعوج لن تستقيم على طريقه فإن ذهبت تقيمها كسرتها وإن استمتعت بها استمتعت بها وفيها عوج. متفق عليه. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that a woman was created crooked from the rib that is crooked. He said that she will never be straightened. He says, so if you try to straighten her, then you will break her. He says, so if you enjoy your spouse, enjoy her with the crookedness. And this hadith was reported by Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خياركم خياركم لنسائكم. And the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, the best of you are the ones that are best to their women. طيب. وقال لي امرأة أذات زوج أنت. And so they said to a woman, do you have a spouse? قالت نعم. She said yes. قال فإنه, and it was said to her, فإنه جنتك وَنَارُكِ, for indeed your husband is your paradise and your hellfire. Your husband is your paradise and your hellfire. وقال لا يحل للمرأة أن تصوم وزوجها شاهد إلا بإذنه, that it is not permissible for a woman to fast and her husband is present except with his permission. ولا تأذن في بيته إلا بإذنه, and that she should not allow anyone into her home or to his home unless it's with her permission. وما أنفقت من نفقة بغير إذنه, and that she should not spend from any of his wealth unless it's with his permission. فإنه يرد إليه شطره. رواه البخاري. And that a woman should not spend from the wealth of her husband unless it's with his permission. And if she does some good with the money, then he will get half of the reward. He will get half of the reward. I thought that it was very important to mention a lot of that before we get further into the text. So the next part here is وَإِذَا تَمَّ الْعَقْدُ. قال مصنف رحمه الله تعالى وَإِذَا تَمَّ الْعَقْدُ لَزِمَ تَسْلِيمُ حُرَّةٍ في بيت زوج إن طلبه. Here, there's a lot of things we can pull out of this. And so we'll start by saying this. Once a woman is married and the contract is done, meaning they agreed on the marriage, لَزِمَ تَسْلِيمُ, then it is upon her, once the marriage is done, that she goes to her husband. As it says here, وَتَسْلِيمُ فِي بَيْتِ الزَّوْجِ, that she goes to her husband's house. And this is another issue here. This is a big issue in our community. The origin is that when a man marries a woman, the woman goes to the man's house, not vice versa. This is the origin. This is the asl. It doesn't mean that it's not possible for a man to move with the spouse, but the origin is that the man or the woman moves in with the husband. This is the origin. This is considered the asl, the rule of thumb, is that the woman moves in with the husband, not vice versa. The responsibility of a zawj is food, clothing, and shelter. Food, clothing, and shelter. And anything in addition to that, well, alhamdulillah, but that is what is obligatory. طيب. So it says, وَإِذَا تَمَّ الْعَقْدُ لَزِمَ تَسْلِيمُ الْحُرَّةِ فِي بَيْتِ زَوْجٍ إِن طَلَبَهُ. When a woman gets married, it is incumbent for her to go to her husband. As it says here in the text, go to her husband's house. In talabahu, when he requests her to come. It says, as long as man lam tashtarit daraha aw baladaha, as long as she doesn't, pay attention to this, as also as an indicator that the origin is that the man or the woman goes to the man's house unless she makes a condition. So a condition is in place to what? To impose the asl. The asl is that the woman goes to the man's house. It says, in lam tashtarit, as long as she did not put a condition in the marriage. So what's the condition that they mention here? In walam tashtarit daraha, that she did not put a condition that she says, no, I want to stay in my house. Then that way he can't tell her to move into. So that means the origin is what? What's the origin?
The origin is that she moves into.
The origin is that the woman moves into the house of her husband, not vice versa. Unless she puts a condition, lam tashtarit daraha, that she did not put a condition that she stays in her own home or she stays in her own country. So let's say, what does that look like? Let's say, for example, a brother marries a sister. Before they get married, she says, listen, I don't want to leave my house. He's all right, cool. In this case, she put that in the condition that she didn't want to leave her house. So he goes to see her while she's at her house. Because that's the condition she put in the marriage. That's number one. طيب. Number two. In lam tashtara baladaha. Let's say, for example, she says, I will marry you, but I don't want to leave this city. I don't want to leave this country. I don't want to leave to go here. If the husband agrees to that, then that's what it is. He can't marry, and this is another thing, brothers. You can't marry a sister, and when you're in a sit down, she says, I want to be able to go to school and work. She puts that in the contract. I want to be able to go to school, I want to be able to work, etc. All that's in the contract. And he's like, all right, cool. Now, once he marries his sister, he says, no, you can't work now. No, you can't go to school. Does he have a right to do that? Yes or no? La. And if he tries to force her to give up her job or to quit school after he agreed to it, what does she have a right for? A khulu'. She has a right for what? A fasq, an annulment from the marriage. Well then, this is important because we all have daughters. I know brothers and have daughters. Huh? You need to be aware of these things. طيب. The next thing. وَإِنْ اسْتَحْمَلَ أَحَدُهُمَا أُحْمِلَ عَادَةً وُجُوبًا. Let's say, for example, he marries the wife, marries the woman, and either one of them say, look, before I come to you, I need some time to prepare myself, get myself together. A short amount of time. It says, أُحْمِلَ الْعَادَةَ وُجُوبًا. Then you allow that person some time, and they said that it is wajib, that you allow them time. لَا عَمَلَ الْجِهَازِ. They say, La amal jihaz, meaning she shouldn't take a long time to come because she want to continue to prepare herself and it's not wajib that you give her that time, but some of the ulama say that it is recommended to allow her that time. طيب. Now we're going to go into another section. When is it appropriate for a man to be intimate with his spouse? So the ulama, as he mentions here, قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ويباشرها من لم يضر أو يشغلها عن فرض. That a man can be intimate with his spouse as long as it's not harmful to her, for whatever that harm may be. أو يشغلها عن الفرض. Or you being intimate with her will prevent her from an act of worship that is obligatory. What does that look like? Let's say, for example, Salat al-Dhuhr is almost out. You already prayed Dhuhr in the masjid. You come home, your wife didn't pray Dhuhr yet. It's like 15 minutes left for Dhuhr and you want to be intimate with your wife. If you're intimate with her, she's going to miss Dhuhr because she's going to have to make a ghusl and all that. In this case, it would not be what? It would not be permissible for him to do that. To cause her to delay the fard, that which is obligatory. Well, is that clear? طيب. وَلَهُ السَّفْرُ بِالْحُرَّةِ مَنْ لَمْ تَشْتَرِطْ ضِدُّهُ. And it's also, when he gets married, he can travel with his wife as long as she what? As long as she does not put in her contract, I will not travel. Well, if she puts in her contract, yes, I will marry you, but I will not travel. So once you marry her, you're like, you know what, big, let's go to, she's like, no, I'm good. You try to, no, you have to come. Well, she just pull out the contract. We agreed to this. Call my wali. Got any confusion, talk to my wali. It's all there. He knows. Huh? Call the wali. Listen, brother, you know what I'm trying. Well, the contract says you can't do that. That's how it works. وَيَحْرَمُ. Now, it talks about the places in which it is impermissible, meaning in terms of her body, that is impermissible to be intimate with her. وَيَحْرَمُ وَطْءُهَا فِي الْحَيْضِ. That a woman, it is haram for a man to be intimate with his spouse while she is on her menses. While she is on her menses. And it is also haram for him to be intimate with her in her rear. This is haram. وَلَهُ إِجْبَارُهَا عَلَى غُسْلِ الْحَيْدٍ وَالنَّجَاسَةٍ. It is also permissible for the husband to force, meaning to strongly command his wife to make a ghusl from her menses, and likewise to make a ghusl from, to clean herself. To clean herself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. That Allah says, stay away from the women when they're on their menses. When they're on their menses. And in another narration, the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, Inna Allah, as it relates to a man being intimate, but here's a quick benefit. If a woman is on her menses, when does it become permissible for the husband to be intimate with his spouse? Huh?
After she makes a ghusl, she cleanses herself.
After she makes a ghusl.
After she cleanses herself from,
Once her missus is off and she makes a ghusl.
So she has to make a ghusl?
Yeah, I think she do.
She does? Right. Pull up Surah Al-Baqarah. Somebody put Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 222. I want you to read it for me.
You have to grab a Quran from
Good. I want you to read it in English, though.
That's it.
You'll grab right there.
This
Yeah.
it? This English?
Yeah, that's it.
You said what, I 222?
222. The question is, when does it, I'm just going to show you evidence to support what you said. Is that English?
Yes, English.
The question is, when your spouse is off her menses, when is it permissible to be intimate with her? When?
It says, they ask you concerning menstruation, say that it's an adha, a harmful thing for a husband to have sexual intercourse with his wife while she is having her menses. Therefore, keep away from women during menses and go not into them till they are purified.
Like,
Keep going?
yeah.
Okay.
So Allah says, do not go into them when they are pure, until they are purified.
Now it says, and when they have purified themselves, then go into them, as Allah has, they got in parentheses.
So Allah says, حَتَّى يَطْهُرْنَ فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَ فَأْتُوهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ. This is what Allah says, right? So the argument is, It says till they become pure. When their menses go off, is that not a form of purity?
Yes, yeah, but
What's the but? Huh?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at the.
I'm asking.
door.
When the woman menses goes off, this is a form of purity. So then why not is a man able to be intimate with his spouse then?
Because she has
She had to make a good
Well, why does she have to be a ghusl first? Because of the blood. But listen, when the mens stops, she became pure. So is it necessary? I mean, is it an obligation that he waits until she makes a ghusl before he's intimate with her? Is it an obligation or is it something that's recommended?
I don't know.
I don't stutter now.
You said, then repeat the question, the last question you just said.
Is it recommended that he waits until she makes a ghusl or is it obligatory?
I think it's recommended the way you put it.
Don't say the way I put it. How do you put it?
No, the way
I don't want you to know how I put it.
No, the way it said was it pure, if she pure.
Allah says, حَتَّى يَطْهُرْنَا فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَا فَأْتُوهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah says, stay away from them until they become pure. Once they're pure, then you can go to them as you please. So the ulama say that the purity comes what? When the menses stop.
So it's recommended.
So it's recommended. Is that it? You sure?
Yeah, because she pure.
Because he's pure. Tayyib. The ulama in Islam, they say that it's two purifications here. The first purification is when the men stop, and the second purification is when she makes a ghusl. And in this ayah, the word tahar, which is purification, is used twice. Allah says, hatta yaturna, until they become pure. فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَا, once they become pure again, then you can go. This is the proof to show that it stops and then she has to make a ghusl. Well, there. Another benefit here in this ayah is that, we'll wait till we study usul. You know what I'm talking about? Al-Amr. Shut up. Khalas. Alright. That's just the benefit in how you look at the verse. A lot of verses, you'll learn that if you study ayat al-ahkam, like verses in the Quran, and they contain legislative rulings in them. How to look at them, how to dissect them, how to understand them. Right? So here, this verse shows that one purification is when the men stops. The second purification is when she makes a ghusl. Likewise, if a man divorces his wife, how many menstrual periods is it? 3. Once she's on her third menses and her menses stops, is the divorce final?
That's the question.
A man divorced his wife, right? 3 menstrual cycles. On the 3rd menstrual cycle, she says, listen, bro, I'm done. It's over. It's over, right? I'm just saying, it's over. Her menses is done, but she didn't make a ghusl yet. It becomes... you still hold that right hope. So it becomes final once she makes that ghusl. Once that ghusl is done, khalas. لَقَدْ انْتَهَى. It's over. طيب. See what else? طيب. قال المصنف رحمه الله ولا تجبر ذمية على غسل النجاسة. So next thing they say, what if a man marries a person that is a dhimmi? Meaning, a dhimmi is a non-Muslim who lives under Muslim protection and a person is married to her. It's a weird scenario, but let's just, you married to a Christian that lives under Islamic rule, right? This is called a dhimmi, right? So if a person is married to her, does he have the right to tell her, force her to make a ghusl and all that stuff after her menses is up? So some of the ulama say it's not necessary because her religion doesn't require that. Well, then, even if she's living under Islamic law, it's not forcing her to become Muslim. Islam still recognizes their faith in that she's not forced to. And some of the ulama say that rather this is his wife and he can tell her to make a ghusl as well. Like, we have time? Yeah, we have time. We're going to start the next part. The next part here is فصل في أحكام المبيت والجماع. So now we're going to talk about a brother who has multiple wives. How does he spend his nights in terms of intercourse, etc.? It gets this particular section is very extensive, but we're not going to because each situation, we spoke about this earlier. The next part in terms of dividing the nights, we'll mention it in a general sense, but each person's situation is different. For example, you may have a man who works at night, he travels, he does this, and he has multiple, like every situation is not textbook, right? So a lot of times when we cover these classes and talk about it, it's in a general sense, in a textbook type setting. If your situation fits the textbook, that's easy to talk about, right? But when it's complex, that requires a little more research and a little more looking into. Salam طيب. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى يلزم أن يبيت عند حرة ليلة من أربع. So the first thing is, it's important that if a man is married to a woman, that it is incumbent for him to spend 1 out of every 4 nights with his wife. If that's confusing, stop me. And then he says, وَيَنْفَرِدُ إِنْ أَرَادَ فِي الْبَاقِي. And for the other nights, outside of that he can be by himself. Again, if a man يَلْزِمُ أَنْ يَبِيتَ عِنْدَ الْحُرَّةِ لَيْلَةً مِنْ أَرْبَعٍ, that it is necessary for a man, if a man is married to one woman, then it is a requirement Islamically that he is to spend 1 out of every 4 nights in that home. The other nights he can be by himself if he wants to, but it is a requirement to at least spend 1 out of every 4 nights in the house. Hold up, brother. The classes was good till I said that.
You just telling me that.
I know, right? You keep that Jay to tuck on.
Right. So we're going to explain that inshallah in some detail. Right. Don't go if you want to. Don't blame me. No. Right. So we find in Shara al-Kabir, قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لعبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص. He says, يا عبد الله ألم أخبر إنك تصوم النهار وتقوم الليل؟ قلت بلى يا رسول الله. قال فلا تفعل صم وأفطر وقم ونم فإن لجسدك عليك حق وإن لعينك عليك حقا وإن لزوجك عليك حق متفق عليه. So here, this is a precursor to what we're about to discuss. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said to Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, and this is important because what comes after that. He says, Ya Abdullah, O Abdullah. He said, Alam ukhbir innaka tasum an-nahar wa taqum al-layl. Is it true that you fast the day and stand in prayer all night? He says, Qultu bala ya Rasulullah. He said, of course, O Messenger of Allah. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said to him, فَلَا تَفْعَلْ. He said, don't do that. Sum, fast, wa aftir, fast and then break your fast. Wa qum manum, stand in the night and then get some sleep. He said, for indeed your body, it has rights over you. Your eyes, it has rights over you. And your spouse has rights over you. This hadith was reported in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Now listen, this is a story here of a woman who came to Umar ibn Khattab. It's very important to listen to this story. And she's going to come and complain about her husband. But let's listen to the way these women would complain about their husband versus the women today and how they complain about their husbands. Pay careful attention to this. If you listen to a woman today complaining about her husband, you would think this man has no good with him at all. Fact. You would think this is the worst man ever when she comes to complain. So she says, فأخبر أن للمرأة مرأتي عليه حق. طيب. It says, وقد روى الشعبي أن كعب بن السوار, and some narrations is mentioned Sawar, and here is mentioned Sur. At any event, his name was Ka'ab. Ka'ab كان جالسا عند عمر ibn Khattab. So Ka'ab, he was sitting with Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. Who was Umar ibn Khattab? Who was he? He was a Khalifa. Mumtaz. طيب. It says, فَجَاءَتْ امْرَأَةٌ. So a woman came to him. فَقَالَتْ يَا أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So she came to Umar ibn Khattab, and she said, O leader of the believers, مَا رَأَيْتُ رَجُلًا قَدْ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ زَوْجِي. She came to Umar ibn Khattab, and she said to him, O leader of the believers, I haven't seen any man better than my husband. I haven't seen any man better than my husband. She says, وَاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَيَبِيتُ لَيْلَهُ قَائِمًا وَيَدُلُّ نَهَارَهُ صَائِمًا فَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهَا وَأَثْنَى عَلَيْهَا وَاسْتَحْيَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ وَقَامَتْ رَاجِيَةً. So, she came to Umar ibn Khattab. She said, I haven't seen any man better than my husband. She said, well, by Allah, I swear by Allah, this man stands in the night praying all night, and he fasts all day. So Umar ibn Khattab fastaghfara, so he asked Allah to forgive her, وَأَثْنَى عَلَيْهَا, and he praised her. Umar ibn Khattab praised her, and so she got shy, and she stood up and she left. Does that sound like a complaint? No. So, what did Ka'ab say? فَقَالَ كَعْبٌ يَا أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ هَلَّا أَعْدَيْتَ الْمَرْأَةَ عَلَى زَوْجِهَا. He stood up and he said to Umar ibn Khattab, can't you see that this woman just complained about her husband? So Umar said, he says, فَقَالَ وَمَا ذَاكَ. He said, well, what is that? What did she complain about? فَقَالَ إِنَّهَا جَاءَتْ تَشْكُوهُ. She came for the purpose of complaining. إِذَا كَانَتْ حَالَهُ هَذِهِ فِي الْعِبَادَةِ مَتَّى يَتَفَرَّقُ لَهَا. So Ka'ab said, if this is how her husband is in his worship, when does he ever have time for her? Look how she complained. This was her complaining about her husband. She didn't say he didn't spend time with her. She said, man, mashallah, my husband, mashallah, he prays, he's the best. So Umar ibn Khattab was like, hey, mashallah. Ka'ab said, she's complaining. So what did Umar ibn Khattab say about Ka'ab? He says, فَبَعْثَ عُمَرَ إِلَى زَوْجِهَا. So Umar ibn Khattab sent for her husband. فَجَاءَ فَقَالَ لِكَعْبٍ أَقْضِي بَيْنَهُمَا. He told Ka'ab, he told Ka'ab that you rule between both of them. He said, you rule between both of them. فَإِنَّكَ فَهِمْتَ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمَا مَنْ لَمْ أَفْهَمْ. He said, for indeed you understood their affair better than me. I did not know what she came for, and you understood it. He says, قَالَ فَإِنِّي أَرَى كَأَنَّهَا إِمْرَأَةٌ عَلَيْهَا ثَلَاثٌ نِسْوَةٌ. He says, I'm going to rule in this woman as if this woman was one of 4 wives. He said, I'm going to rule as if this woman is one of 4 wives. هِيَ رَابِعَتُهُنَّ. She is the 4th wife. فَأَقْضِي لَهُ بِثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ وَلَيَالِهِنَّ يَتَعَبَّدُ فِيهِنَّ وَلَهَا يَوْمًا وَلَيْلَةً. He said, I'm going to rule as if she's one of 4 wives. Then in this case, it is incumbent for him that he can have 3 nights to himself to worship, and 1 whole day and 1 night strictly for her. 1 whole day and 1 night strictly for her. فَقَالَ عُمَرُ. So Umar ibn Khattab, he said, وَمَا رَأْيُكَ الْأَوَّلِ بِأَعْجَبَ إِلَيَّ مِنَ الْآخَرِ اذْهَبْ فَأَنْتَ قَادٍ عَلَى بَصْرَةٍ. So Umar ibn Khattab, he was impressed by his rule, and he said, go, you are now a ruler over Basra. He made him the ruler over the city Basra. And he says, وَرَوَى ذَلِكَ عُمَرُ ibn الشُّبَّةِ في كتاب قضاة بصرة. And you can find this in a book called The Judges of Basra. ومن وجود هذا أحدهما وفي هذا اللفظ قال عمر ni'ma qadi anta. Umar said about Ka'b that you are a righteous judge. You are a righteous judge. And he says, وَهَذِهِ قَضِيَّةَ اشْتَهَرَتْ. He said, this issue became widespread and famous among the Muslims during that time. And the key here is فَلَمْ يُنْكَرْ. And you don't find any of the ulama of the past refuting this issue. فَكَانَتْ إِجْمَاعًا. And they say this is an ijma'. This is a consensus among the scholars of the past and present. But specifically here, the past. And it says, the innahu, and now they're going to explain the reasoning for it. They say, وَلَإِنَّهُ لَوْ لَمْ يَكُنْ حَقًّا لِلْمَرْأَةِ لَمَلَكَ الزَّوْجُ تَخْصِيصُ إِحْدَى زَوْجَاتِهِ بِهِ كَزِيَادَةٍ فِي نَفَقَةٍ عَلَى قَدْرِ وَاجِبٍ. Is that if this was not the case, then there wouldn't be no limitation set. Meaning there needs to be some form of limitation. Well, I'll get into the details of this issue here, but there should be some limitation set. Any questions about that? طيب. So the next one. It says, وَيَلْزَمُ الْوَطْعُ إِنْ قَدَرَ كُلُّ ثُلُثَ السَّنَةَ مَرَّةً. Alright, so if a man is married, it is incumbent for him to be intimate with his spouse at least once every 4 months. Once every 4 months. A person may say, well, why is that? This is based on the issue of the ilah, and we're going to get into that later. طيب. It says, وَإِنْ سَافَرَ فَوْقَ نِصْفِهَا وَطَلَبَ قَدُومَهُ وَقَدَرَ لَزِمَهُ. And let's say, for example, the husband is traveling. If the husband is traveling longer than 6 months and it is not for Hajj, and it is not for Hajj, and it is not for a war. Maybe he's in the army and he's fighting in a war. If it's not for Hajj and it's not for a war, then if she requests that he comes, then he must come. قَدَرَ لَزِمَهُ. If he's able to come, he must come. فَإِنْ أَبَى أَحَدُهُمَا فُرِّقَ بَيْنَهُمَا بِطَلَبِهَا. If he refuses to come back after that 6 months of traveling, and he refuses and he's able to, then she can go to a judge and get separated. فُرِّقَ. She can get a فَسْقُ النِّكَاح. طيب. The next part. طيب. So it says, وَتُسَنُّ تَسْمِيَةَ عِنْدَ الْوَطْءِ وَقُومَ وَرَى. If a man is intimate with his spouse, there's a dua that he must make. Does anyone know the dua? Get if I so together. Don't be shy.
Yes, I know.
What is it? Right. The dua is, if a man is intimate with his spouse, a sunnah is to make this dua, Allahumma jannibna ash-shaytan wa jannib ash-shaytan ma razaqtana. Meaning, oh Allah, keep us away from the shaytan and keep the shaytan away from whatever you bless us with. Right. Who says this dua? The man or the woman? The man. You sure?
Ask Reese.
I'm sticking with my answer.
Sticking with your answer? Huh? The man? Type, sah. The man is the one that makes this dua. When we were in school and we actually studied this, we asked Sheikh Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, the Mufti of Saudi. He was in the Haram one day, and this is one of the questions. We had like a list of questions. And we was like, Sheikh, what, this dua here that you make, who says this dua? Because it doesn't specify it in the hadith. Who says it? And at the time, we didn't know, and he told us. He said, this dua is made by the man. The man is the one who makes this dua. It says, when a man is intimate with his spouse, yukrahu kathratu kalam, that he should not talk. He should not have a lot of speech when he's intimate with his spouse. وَالنَّزْعُ قَبْلَ فَرَاغِهَا. And is also hated. How do I explain this? This shit.
You don't stop before she's finished.
So here it says, وَالنَّزْعُ قَبْلَ فِرَاغِهَا, that he should not not stop intimacy until the spouse is satisfied. وَالْوَطْءُ بِالْمَرَاءِ أَحَدًا. And he should not be intimate with his spouse and people hear them or see them. وَالتَّحَدَّثُ بِهِ. And they should not talk about their intimacy with anyone. وَيَحْرَمُ جَمْعُ زَوْجَيْهِ فِي مَسْكَنٍ وَاحِدٍ بِغَيْرِ رِضَاهُمَا. And that he should not have two wives living in the same home if they are not happy with that, if they do not choose to be in that type of situation. وَلَهُ مَنْعُهَا مِنَ الْخُرُوجِ مِنْ مَنْزِلِهِ. And it is permissible for the husband to prevent his wife from leaving the house, to tell her not to leave the house. And so the ulama mentioned here, this is for the purpose of maslahah. This is for a good reason. A husband is not going to just tell his wife, no, you just can't go just because, without there being a reason, without there being... The purpose here is that he's looking out for her maslahah, her best interest in this regard. As some of the ulama, they say some men, they act like they are ilahun fil bayt. They act like they are the God in their own house. Wa'yadu billah. طيب. وَيُسْتَحَبُّ إِذْنُهُ إِن تَمَرَّدَ مَحْرَمُهَا وَتَشْهَدُ جَنَازَتُهُ. And it is recommended that the husband allows his wife to go if her family members are sick and to follow, or tashhad janazatuhu, and to be a part or to see the janazah. وَلَهُ مَنْعُهَا مِنْ إِجَارَةِ نَفْسِهَا. And it's for him if he wants his wife not to work, that is his right to tell his wife, I don't want you to work. That's his right to do that. وَمِنْ إِرْضَاءِ وَلَدِهَا. Now let's say, for example, if a woman has a baby, an infant, and she's divorced, and she remarries. Let's assume she remarries someone, and she has a newborn that is breastfeeding, right? The husband has the right to say, I don't want you to breastfeed, let someone else breastfeed the baby. Huh? It says, مِنْ إِرْضَاءِ وَلَدِهَا مِنْ غَيْرِهِ إِلَّا لِلضَّرُورَةِ. She should listen to him unless it's out of necessity, meaning the baby will not go to anyone else except for the mom. In that case, it is necessary. All right, we're going to stop with that, inshallah, because the next part, it talks about how to divide nights, and I know that's going to be it's going to be long, even though it's a short part, but it's a lot of detail. Any questions about what we covered thus far?
Yeah.
Further.
You said once, you didn't be by yourself once.
I done messed up.
I need more detail on that.
You need more detail?
Yeah.
Like, I can't give you no more detail than that.
So, repeat it.
Repeat what, Sheikh? What did you hear?
I'm gonna leave it alone.
1 out of every 4 nights. This is a requirement. It doesn't mean, it doesn't, it does. You know, if you stay out longer than that, you're gonna have some problems. That's gonna be, you're gonna have some problems if you stay out longer than that. But what's obligatory, at least know that if you did stay out longer than that, you're not committing a sin. Allahu Akbar. Any other questions, Ikhwan? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.